Hi there guys, I'm Danny and welcome to today's episode of All Monsters Go to Space. So today I'm going to be covering the Polynesian Maori god, Maui. You're welcome. So the tales of Maui actually started off being told by word of mouth, as they didn't have the written language at this point, and pretty much his legend can be found through all of the Polynesian islands, where he is either a full god, a demigod, or sometimes just a remarkable man. So starting off in New Zealand, Maui was the son of Turanga, the wife of the underworld god Makiatatutara. When he was born prematurely, his mother wrapped him in a lock of her hair from her top knot, and then cast him into the ocean. For what reason I don't actually know. But from here he was found by the ocean spirits, wrapped in seaweed, and delivered to his divine ancestor Rangi, who raised him to young adulthood. Once he'd reached this point, he then decided it was time to return home to his mother and his 4 brothers. She didn't recognize him at first, and so he had to prove who he was by mentioning his birth story. And for his brothers, who were wary of him, he showcased his powers by transforming into various birds. They acknowledged him and welcomed him into their group. Now Maui had many adventures, and through a lot of these, they actually are said to be how New Zealand was created and how the Earth came to be as we know it. His first adventure was restraining the sun. The days were just too short and people couldn't get much work done, so he took the jawbone of his ancestor, Muriranga Wenua, and lassoed the sun with it. He then, with his brothers, beat the sun god until he promised that he would go slower. Then after accomplishing this, he went fishing with his siblings, and again using the jawbone as a fishing hook, he caught a gigantic fish. Now as it emerged, Maui wished to find a priest to perform prayers and rituals, and trusted the protection of the fish to the others. But they didn't wait, to say the least, and cut up the fish. It began to writhe vigorously, and this made it break up into the mountains, cliffs and valleys of northern New Zealand, instead of it being a flat land that Maui had planned. Now southern New Zealand was created when Maui sailed his canoe when he went to pull up the fish, and the Banks Peninsula was where he planted his foot to ground himself when he was pulling it up. And his next venture came out of necessity. Fire had disappeared from the world, so Maui finds the fire goddess, Mahuika, and learns from her. Unfortunately, she found his antics infuriating and tried to kill him. Luckily, he had by now learnt the secret of fire and escaped by the skin of his teeth and brought fire back to the earth. And after this, sometime later, Maui then decided to finally find his father. So Turanga would leave each morning, and Maui decided to follow her in the form of a wood pigeon. She had gone to meet a man who was actually his father. When his father met Maui, he decided to perform a baptismal ceremony, but he messes up the incantations, and his father warns him that this was an ill omen. And his last venture was Maui seeking out immortality for man. His dad tries to stop him, or at least warn him, but he wouldn't listen. He took with him some companions. Some stories say that this was either his brothers or a small flock of the smallest forest birds. So they seek out Hine and find her sleeping. Maui turns to his group and says, "When I go into the body of this old woman, do not laugh at me. Wait until I come out again. Then you may laugh as much as you want." They told him that he would be killed, and he countered with, "If you laugh, I will indeed be killed, but if I pass right through her body, I will live and she will die." Well, you can guess what happened. As he entered, one of his companions did indeed laugh. This woke Hine, and she crushed Maui and broke him into 2. Maui had been the first being to die, and from then until now, because of this, man is mortal. Hina is actually the goddess that holds the portal to the underworld and all humans must pass through. Now Hawaiian mythology is slightly different. He is still a hero and an ancient chief, but not so much of a trickster. Here, he is the son of Akalani and his wife Hina Akaahi. He goes through very similar challenges but with slight variations, starting off with him hauling up the islands of Hawaii. Maui's mother and brothers mocked his lack of fishing abilities, so he used Kalani, I believe it's pronounced, the jawbone, baited it with a wing from Ale, his mother's pet bird, and went fishing. So it actually goes that Maui tricked his brothers while they were fishing. He catches the ocean floor and asks them to row as hard as possible, and in their effort, they don't realise that the islands are being raised behind their retreating backs, and they fall for this trick quite a few times, and these all became the Hawaiian Islands. Another version goes that Maui fishes up Pimawe, or tries to fish up Pimawe, the god of fishes, at Hamakua. He has ordered his brothers to not look back as they sail away, trying to pull up the huge catch. If they did, they would fail. Now Hina had followed and, disguising herself as a gourd, bobbed nearby. Maui saw it and pulled it out of the ocean. Just behind them, a beautiful goddess had appeared, and unable to resist, the brothers looked behind. Their fishing line split and parted. Hina is lost, and the siblings try to get the line back together. But as you can guess, they failed, and the chain of islands couldn't be drawn back into a solid form again. Now his next venture was inspired by his mother. She had complained that the days were too short, and she was unable to dry her bark cloth or kapa. Maui climbed to the top of Haleakala mountain and lassoed the sun using a rope made from his sister's hair. The sun pleads and agrees to the terms that the days will change length. After this, he then had to lift the sky, but it could not be done alone. At this point, the sky was so low that people had to scuttle. No one could stand, and this broke Maui's heart. He asked his father for help, and he travelled to Lahaina, met with his father, and they had to lie on their backs to brace themselves as they pushed with all their strength. Now it is said that if only one of them had attempted to do this by themselves, it would have failed. Now, sometime later, Maui sat thinking about the islands he had fished up a long time ago. He wondered what might be on them, so he went to visit them and found them inhabitable. There were houses, but just no people. He wondered why, and would soon have his answer. So soon after visiting, he had made Hina his wife, and she was a very clean and house-proud person. She had gone down to the riverbank to gather water. As she reached down, a great long eel called Tuna rose from the water, hit her with his body, and covered her in slime. She was able to get away and returned home. But on this occasion, she didn't tell her husband. When the same thing happened the next day, she knew she had to tell him. When Maui had been told, he then went out and hunted down the eel. He lay out numerous traps and then ordered out the creature. When it did swim out, Maui pulled it from the water and dispatched him with a stone axe. Then he buried the eel's body, and this is where palm trees suddenly sprouted, and from there came coconuts. So in all the legends about this deity, he pretty much shaped the world, especially of the Polynesian islands. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.